Hello, folks. Welcome to episode 7 of The Upside. It's been a bit, but basically, as I said before, the purpose behind this podcast was I just wanted to speak to interesting people that had inspiring stories and genuine things to talk about. But I just ran out of those kind of people, so I've invited my mate Cammy on instead. But yeah, so this is Cammy is one of my closest mates. He's very, very intelligent. He's good at what he fucking does. I think he would be a great person to listen to. So yeah, do you want to take it away and just tell the people who you actually are?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, I'm Cammy, and fucking good start. Yeah, pretty much. What have I done? Fucking hell. Left school, started uni. I have a master's degree in structural engineering, believe it or not. But I also have a very, very strong passion for bodybuilding. I've been bodybuilding now. Well, I started going to the gym when I was 15, 16. Started taking things a lot more seriously around 17, 18 years old and competed for the first time at 20 in Inverness, believe it or not. But yeah, that is pretty much me. I'd say structural engineer, bodybuilder, doorman. Very part-time doorman at the minute. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Obviously, as well as structural engineering, I am an online coach. I would say my niche is more lined towards up-and-coming junior bodybuilders, but obviously I do coach a wide range of clients as well, lifestyle, male and female. But again, I think because I've been there and done the whole bodybuilding thing for the past 6 years, that's where my kind of enjoyment is most of all. You know? So.
I'm looking forward to getting into the nitty-gritty of all that, because you, over the past 6 to 12 months, I think you've really established yourself and kind of built up a reputation as a fucking damn good bodybuilding coach for that niche. And there's people out there that have decades more experience than you and just aren't getting the results the same as you. So I'm looking forward to having a discussion about that. But you said you started going to the gym when you were 15, 16. What was that initial reason for you getting into training?
Well, at the time I was really close friends with a boy called Paul, and he's a skinny lad, but he had a good bit of muscle on him, and we were really close friends, and he'd started going to the gym, and he brought me along. We started actually going, believe it or not, to Warehouse back when it was really dungeon rust, and it was brilliant.
Gritty.
Yeah, so we obviously joined there at 15, 16 years old, and it was brilliant. It was back when you would just fucking smash serious mass or mutant mass before you go train, and Burger Kings and then go train. It was just so bad. But yeah, it was him that got me into the gym, and the sole purpose of it was just to get fucking some muscle, man. It wasn't I didn't kind of have any issues with food, or I wasn't self-conscious or anything like that. It was literally just, you know what, I enjoy going to the gym. I want to build some muscle. And obviously I came from a sporting background before. When I was younger, I played a lot of football. As you know, I was the Aberdeen Academy for 4 years. Did quite well, got released, didn't make it, wasn't good enough. And my family, they were all golfers. My dad was a golfer, both my uncles were golfers, and my granddad was a golfer. So I actually got into golf for a couple of years, and I got pretty good at it as well, but the gym just completely took over, and then that quickly just I stopped golfing. And then, so I've been going to the gym ever since I was 15, 16. I would definitely say the first couple of years was very, not half-arsed, but there was zero knowledge behind what I was doing. I was a typical 16-year-old kid going into the gym, going straight to the bench, doing 1 rep maxes, straight there. I'm sure if I looked way back into some old hard drives on my phone and stuff, I'm sure I'd find some really, really bad videos of me trying to bench or squat weight that I just should not have been even remotely going near. And I actually think I tried to do 180 squat back when I was 15, 16. I can barely do that now.
Absolutely no right touching that.
It was, so that was kind of how I got into the gym. And obviously, over the years, I've just kind of got closer. First of all, at Warehouse, I got started getting in with Rob in with Doug at the time, and then moved to Bodyworks, and that's when I obviously met Greg, sorry, I'm forgetting Glenn. My training partner before Greg was a boy called Glenn. You know Glenn, don't you? And that was when my training started really leveling up. I remember when we joined Bodyworks, it was like we were really getting into it. And I remember spewing multiple times in there, and it was brilliant. And then not long before that was then when I started training with Greg, and that's when things really fucking became serious, you know.
At what point, like when you were exposed to that sort of like, let's call it hardcore training sort of style, did you realise that was for you? You weren't arsed anymore about football, not so much about golf. You wanted to go balls deep into that.
Yeah, it was definitely the Bodyworks era for sure. Like when I joined that gym, like Warehouse was great, but when it got done up, it turned very much into like bodybuilders not welcome. So when we moved to Bodyworks, like that was when things got really serious. I don't know, did you ever train in Bodyworks?
No, that was before my time.
Bodyworks was fucking tiny. Like it wasn't much bigger than this, maybe twice as big as this room, but it wasn't big at all. And there wasn't many members. Like you walked in, you'd pay your 20 quid membership cash and just fucking have at it. You'd put your own music on, there'd be no one ever there. And that was when training really became serious. And it wasn't until after Bodyworks where I started training with Greg, that DW. And obviously from there, that's when things became extremely serious because he's obviously a very high level bodybuilder. And then, the rest is history, you know. But,
what kind of point did you sort of think like, right, okay, I'm progressing massively through my training, like bodybuilding is what I want to sort of focus on?
Yeah, right from the get-go.
From the get-go.
From that time at Bodyworks, I was like, yep, right. And it was that was 2018. I'd started training like a bodybuilder, and Rob Rose, he before I was coached by Greg, he actually helped me through my first like proper diet.
Okay.
I had a holiday booked for Cancun.
Cancun Classic.
The Cancun Classic. So I was posting like weekly updates on Instagram, like 10 weeks out from the Cancun Classic, and folk generally thought I was competing. And it was just to go on a holiday. And I came back like 10 kilos heavier because
Love it.
all inclusive. Like imagine dieting on like nothing. Like Rob fucking had me eating dust. And I got really lean, to be fair. It was my first ever time getting lean. Went to Cancun, had no idea like what to expect. All inclusive holiday, pigged out. I could barely
Came
walk.
back a water
I could
buffalo.
barely walk by the end of it. So that was when I that first initial diet with Rob was when I was like, right, I like this shit. I'm going to compete next year. So that was 2017 or 2018. And then 2019 was the year I competed for the first time. I hired Greg for the first show. And then, like I said, that was where things really just skyrocketed.
How old were you there?
With Rob, I was 18. And then with Greg, I was 19 going 20. So I competed for the first time in 2019. So I'd have been 20.
And that was in Inverness?
Inverness, yeah.
Okay.
And it's still to this day probably my favourite show because like everyone travelled up for it. I had Caitlin there, I had my mum, my dad, my brother. Rob was there, Pete was there, Doug was there. Everyone came up to watch. Greg was there. It was good fun. And it was a great experience. I think doing local shows is fantastic because you have everyone there with you. And then that show went well. Just did the one show. I wish I did more now. I wish I did do a few more. And then, ever since, I've done a prep essentially every year. 19 was the first year. 20 was the one with fucking COVID.
The
C word. We met that year. That was when we were both working the doors. And that was a tough prep. And it was a shame that we didn't see it through because of COVID. Then 2021 was the year I competed the most. That was where I did the 3 shows, 1, 2 of 3. And then 2022 obviously was the more recent one, but I looked my best ever, but obviously fell ill 1 week out. So it was 4 years on the trot doing preps. 2 of them ending successfully, 2 of them unfortunately not. And I always slag off folk for never seeing preps through. But
ditto.
I feel like my ones, like COVID and fucking ended up in hospital, are different. So
absolutely. I think let's talk about how you've found juggling, competing through all those years, preps, which aren't easy, and balancing like doing your degree and your masters.
Yeah, I think when I was at uni, I found bodybuilding a lot easier. If I'm honest. Don't get me wrong, uni isn't easy. Like but there's a lot of more time. you know. Looking back at it, I didn't appreciate it enough, I don't think, because you have a long summer where you've like 4 or 5 months off, you're doing nothing, it's brilliant. And realistically, you've only really got maybe 2 to 3 months of the year that are like hard graft revision, you know. So during uni, it wasn't too challenging, and that's probably why I think I made a lot more progress during my years at uni than I have been doing recently.
Okay.
But I think partly in more recent years, obviously my digestion was obviously causing a bit of issues last year. But I think I'm kind of finding my feet now with my new kind of structure. I take on, as you know, I fucking take on way too much with the day job, the coaching, and my own bodybuilding. And unfortunately, the bodybuilding suffers a little bit just because of recovery capabilities. But yeah, during uni, it was, I don't want to say a breeze, but it was like I liked doing preps during exam times because, as you know, when you're dieting, you're very productive. You know, you're tired and maybe you're a bit more agitated, but you're a lot more productive, and I found that worked quite well when it came to like doing uni and studying for exams. That being said as well, because of COVID, my harder years at uni weren't even that hard because exams weren't in exam halls, which was a fucking blessing. That was a blessing. That made things much more manageable because you knew that you weren't going into an exam hall, and if you weren't prepared, you were fucked. You know, so that would make things even easier, to be fair.
So I think for the average person, like if you were to say, oh, you're competing, you're doing your masters, you're working a job that's very unsociable hours as well at the same time, they would look at that or hear that and think, fuck that, that sounds like really difficult. Are you saying for you it was complete opposite, where it was actually almost a benefit?
Yeah, I think during uni it was easier for me, just because it's my thing now is lack of time. You know, it's more than anything else. It's just I feel like I'm just constantly chasing myself. Whereas back then with uni especially, it was like it wasn't too like. Don't get me wrong, you had to go into uni, go into classes and stuff, but there was a lot more flexibility, and I could train in the mornings. There was no rush. I wasn't training in the evenings when the gyms are busy, and I found it a lot more enjoyable. You know. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was by any means easy, and I certainly think working the doors made things more difficult. You know, I remember like working Friday nights with you, and then finishing like 3 a.m, getting to bed like 4, half 4, and then being up for legs at 10 with Greg. You know, so it was by no means easy, but I think I preferred that to my current situation.
Was that just because it was a little bit more routine and structured, or?
It's probably. I think I had less routine, to be honest. I think
Really?
because there was more time. You know, there was more time to have a bit more leeway. Whereas now I'm very much
everything's to the minute.
It's to the minute, and if it's not, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So no, that's I definitely have a harder time now, but hopefully that's not going to last too much longer.
In terms of your competing,
Yeah.
Let's talk about your track record in terms of shows where you've placed.
Yeah.
What shows, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So Inverness was the first show, IBFA Highlands and Islands show in 2019. In the juniors under 21s, I won that class. Like I said, that was my most enjoyable show. I just did the one show that season. Like I said, I wish I did a few more just to get a bit more stage experience. And then 2020, that was COVID, unfortunately, so that didn't get seen through. 2021, I did my first show at the Two Bros, one of the regionals down in London. That one, again, that was a juniors under 24s, won that class. And then a few weeks later, I jumped into the FitX Strom Classic, won that class. And then I did PCA the following week. That was a poor showing from me. I had a bit of a slip up on the way back, which you know about. I'm not proud of it whatsoever, and Greg's was not happy with it either. There's a bit.
What happened?
So if any of my clients are watching this, you're not allowed to do this, okay? Because I won't be happy with you.
It's a lesson learned.
But it's a lesson learned for sure. I finished the FitX show, and I won the juniors in the morning, and I went to the overall in the evening, and there was a good like 7-8 hour window. And we kept the food and the water to a minimum that day because my look was improving. So it was a long day, and I was really suffering, to be fair. By the time I got to the overall, like my insides, my stomach was actually quite painful. maybe just due to lack of hydration, maybe, I'm not really sure. But I remember finishing that show and Greg was like, right, okay, we've got a week to the next one, just don't go off plan at all. And I'm like, right, sound, I won't. And I was fine, and I travelled home from, it was Liverpool, sorry, no, it was Manchester. Travelled back and I was absolutely fine. But I got back to the house and there was a packet of rice cakes, caramel rice cakes, the Snack Jack ones. There was that, and there was also a jar of peanut butter. And they were both were in my plan. That's why they were there. And I just had a very short lack of self-discipline and just went full retard. I pretty much tanned the whole jar of peanut butter. And I checked in the following day, and Greg was like, "What the fuck have you done, mate?" I was like, you don't want to know, man." I had to like explain to him what I'd done. He's like, "Bullshit, you've had like a Domino's," and I truly have not had a Domino's. So that week we ramped the cardio right up, like, and he fucking punished me for it. I could tell he was pissed off.
So this is like the consequences of what had happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for any clients that might be listening.
He was furious in it because the FX show was my best look, hands down. That was my best look on stage. 22 would have been better, but the FX show in 21 was definitely my best look on stage. And that week, obviously, we had to really try and pull off as much water as I'd put a bit of water weight on. And by time I said to him, I was like, "Listen, like, I've booked this show, like, I don't need to do it, but I have the accommodation, which I've spent a lot of money on. So I'm like, maybe I'll just go down to Birmingham and just have a nice time with Caitlin. And just like, we can fix things when I come back." And I wanted to do British finals, the Two Bros British finals in a month or so's time. And he's like, "Listen, man, like, if you go down to Birmingham and have more off-plan food, that's your season done. Your body's been up and down too many times now to warrant it. So if you go down to Birmingham and just for an off-plan food and for a nice weekend away, your season's over." And I was like, "Right, well, fuck it, and we'll compete. Throw it at me." So he did throw it at me. I was doing like 2 hours cardio in peak week, believe it or not, which is it wasn't good. And like, even I went down to Birmingham and I was like, I'm still not sure I'm actually going to get on stage, because I was looking at photos and I'm like, I ended up way lighter for the PCA because we'd pulled it down so hard, but the look was just very disappointing, you know. And I knew it was, and I think I went on stage not really wanting to be on stage. So I kind of wish I didn't do that now, to be honest with you. But I'd paid the money and I was like, fuck it, let's just do it, see what happens.
Yeah.
But I placed third out of third, which was a kick up, which is a fucking, that hurt.
For someone like yourself as well, like, you hold very, very high standards for yourself. Competing, not just with competing, but even from the likes of things where, like, the content that you do, you're studying, like, anything that you do, you want to be not just the best that you can be, but just generally the best at it. And I think when you do something that maybe pulls you back from being that best,
it was disappointing.
Yeah,
it stinks. It was poor. So that was actually my last time on stage, which is, that needs to be corrected. That needs to, I need to correct that. So the next time,
does that ever stay in the back? Sorry to interrupt. Does that ever stay in the back of your head and stay as a motivator though? Like, when you're training, when you're dieting, etc., where you think back to that fuck up and placing 3 out of 3. And does it drive your motivation?
I definitely think when I go back into a contest prep, it will.
Yeah.
Because I remember afterwards, that really pissed me off, and I was like, that was really poor from me. I've kind of forgot about it, to be honest with you. It's not really in my mind, but I know when I come back to competing, because I've obviously had quite a few years off now, when I do come back to it, that will definitely be a driving force. You know, like, I've got to kind of set that right, you know, for sure. Because obviously that was my last time on stage as a junior, you know, because 22 was the year obviously I got really ill. And that really pissed me off. That is probably more frustrating than 21, because at a week out I was really happy with how I looked. I was like Greg had got me like inside out. I was ready, and obviously with stomach issues last minute, fucking put me in hospital. I was like, fuck, you know, like, all that work for nothing. And then seeing the junior lineups that I was going to be competing against, I was like, oh damn it, I would have probably, I don't want to sound like I said I would have won it, but I think I would have won it, you know. So it was a sting, you know. I was going to do the British that year. I wouldn't have won the British. There was some guys in the British that were fucking mutants.
Yeah.
I think those qualifiers that I'd planned to do, I think I would have done pretty well. So that was the one that hurt the most, for sure. So
I think it's sort of just going back to, was it the end of 2019 that we first met?
Yeah,
Or was
yeah.
it 2020? Were we both on prep when we first met?
We both met in 2019 at the end during December, because you obviously started working the doors for the Christmas period, I think. And we obviously started working the doors through that period, and we were both on prep for the first ever date for the Granite City Classic.
Yes.
That was the 2020 show where it was me, Greg, and Catherine on the poster that got cancelled.
Yes. Yeah.
We met in the lead up to that, and I know obviously we were both suffering, you far more than I was. There's no
various reasons.
There's no doubt about that. You were definitely suffering that year, and I think I remember. Do you remember the Batty? Remember he had a falling out with us because he was
because we were both miserable.
We were both
cunts.
miserable. He's like, you guys are just dicks, you know. I was like, so.
But I think if we, I don't know. I think if we were to meet now, I have absolutely zero like interest or anything in competing. I'm not even that much into bodybuilding. I like everything that's required, but just competing is not for me. I think if we were to meet now, we probably wouldn't be as close if what the fuck am I trying to say?
No, I get what you're saying.
If we had met now instead of back then, we probably wouldn't have bonded as much as we did back then. But because we were both working nights, we were both balls deep into prep, we were both suffering to an extent, I think it allowed us to become close mates and bond a little
100%,
bit.
yeah.
And it was like, I can remember just the conversation. We would literally be standing on the door like talking about food. You would have a list of notes in your phone, like off-plan meals that you're going to smash through as soon as the diet's finished. And I think it's like a really, like for anyone that's ever thinking about competing, it's definitely important to know. Anyone that's thinking about dieting in general, whether it's for like a holiday or a photo shoot, it's very important to know that that sort of food fixation and focus is going to get wild. It's going to get to the point where you're like constantly thinking about food. You get a throb on talking about food. Like it's just, it's wild. And you're not, I don't even think you're not much of a fat bastard as I am in terms of like how much you just enjoy generally eating and love food, etc.
I'm not a massive eater. I can put away my meals what's prescribed with relative ease, but I'm not like a huge foodie. No, but I definitely think it gets easier. I think the more times you do preps, the more times you compete in bodybuilding shows, I think that food focus does get easier. Cause I remember the more recent preps that I had done, I wasn't thinking about like, oh, I can't wait to go smash some burgers or some pizza. I was just thinking, I want more cream of rice. I want more oats. I want more rice. Like that's what I was thinking about. And I was writing out my off-season diets.
Yes, yeah.
I'm still in the habit of doing that, you know.
I think that's fairly common. Like the further you get into it, you start thinking less of like junk food and more about just having more of the food that you're already eating.
100%, yeah. 100%.
Let's talk about the first like month or so of COVID and lockdown in terms of like our communication and what we were up to. Because by this point, like I was being coached by someone that had no right coaching anyone. And I had absolutely zero idea in terms of like water retention and rebounding and things like that. So that first month going into post diet, going into lockdown, how did that first 4 weeks look like for you?
2020 was definitely better than 2019 because I had a bit more experience. I kind of knew, right, if I eat like a dick, I am going to blow up like a balloon. But it still wasn't good. I still had off-plan food, and I think the first few weeks, you definitely gain a few kilos in water retention, and it does make things very uncomfortable to just move about. You know, I think even as walking, if you walk for 15 minutes, you're
fucked. Your
crippled. Shins are burst. You have to sit down. And I remember having to do that even that year because obviously it was COVID, so everyone was on a walking craze. Everyone's like, "Oh, let's go for walks." You know, it's like, well, I can't.
I physically can't.
I know you.
My lower back, mate.
That was your first time, yeah.
I have a memory of us talking about it, and I don't know. You were speaking about walking up a hill, maybe with Caitlin or by yourself. In flip-flops, funnily enough, to Tesco, and you had to stop and maybe go back, or you had to end up driving. And I was in a place where I couldn't go outside and walk. I was having to walk on the spot in my living room because my water retention was fucking me up so badly. Yeah. So it's it definitely got messy for the both of us. But I think that was just like again another thing that kind of like brought us a little bit closer. And it was funny looking back on it.
It's definitely a learning lesson for anyone who wants to compete. It's like that post-show period is by a mile the hardest. You know?
Oh, for sure.
It's like prep is difficult. Don't get me wrong. Like being tired and hungry it's not fun. but that post-show period where the goal kind of is, there's no like
You don't have that
immediate
motivator.
and you've been deprived of all these luxurious foods that are really bad for you for so long. Once you start, you can't stop.
No.
You know, like you have to be very self-disciplined in order to be successful in that post-show period. And I still think, to be honest, I've still not nailed that post-show period, just because 2019 was a disaster, 2020 was a disaster, 21 wasn't bad, 22, that was when I was in hospital, so that wasn't too bad, but I'd lost a lot of weight in hospital, and obviously blew it like a balloon when I came out, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was back to kind of baseline.
Yeah. It's no, you're 100% right. That post-diet sort of phase is, I think, significantly more difficult than the actual diet itself.
Yeah.
And as you said, like the goal's no longer there, so you don't have like that sort of tunnel vision. You now have access to everything that you didn't have access to before, and it's just, what is it? It's like 30 days. It takes 30 days of uncontrolled eating to fuck off that like feeling of hunger, something like that. And when you're post-diet, like you have a bottomless pit of a stomach. Like you can just put food away. It just doesn't stop.
You really can. I remember like eating meals and like being uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm going to keep eating. I don't care. And you would make yourself extremely uncomfortable because you almost feel like you're not going to be given this food again. It's like, I've got to finish it. I've bought it. I must finish it. And it's like, well, you don't, because
it's still going to be there.
One meal is probably more calories than you've eaten a day on prep, you know. So yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. I think the next in my prep, I'll be far more controlled. I think I will.
As you said, it gets better every time.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
But yeah, no, I think that's what I've obviously explained to Logan and Connor, who are competing this year with me. I've explained in that post-show period is obviously the hardest. And I think it comes down to communication. I think if you make sure your clients know that they're in for a rough ride post-workout, the post-show, I'm hoping they don't switch off post-show. Like I've said to them, like, I want them checking in daily still for the first few weeks at least, and then slowly taper that down to, like, say, twice a week, for example, until we're at the point where their body's kind of saturated and they're no longer, it's no longer soaking everything up, you know. Because I know a lot of people these days say that post-show period isn't like a opportunity to build muscle, but I think it is. I still think your body's maybe not in the health position to build muscle, but it goes out saying, like, if you fucking do it correctly and you eat maybe a quick surplus of food and then build up, I definitely think there's progress to be made there, 100%. Like your body's going to soak it all up.
What time frame are you saying post-show?
I honestly think we're in the first 12 weeks. I think there's loads of scope.
Okay, that I will agree with. Yeah. I think when people speak about building muscle like post-show and they're talking about like that first month, I think the majority of that is just regaining fullness.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, if you're talking like 12 weeks, absolutely agree with that. I think that's a nice segue if we move away from us being fat bastards like post-diet and into how you got into coaching. At what point? Man, because I can remember conversations we had where I was like, you need to start doing fucking content. And you're like, no, Ross, fuck off.
I'm very stubborn.
And then when you start doing content, what happened, mate?
Yeah. So obviously I began coaching in 2021 during that contest prep. Essentially what I was doing was putting up question boxes and I was offering out free information for free, just like talking about my own stuff. I'd obviously done a prep in 2019, done it in 2020, and then was doing it in 2021. So I'd been around a few years around guys that were a lot more knowledgeable than myself. So I thought, right, okay, maybe I start helping some of my pals for free. So I think very quickly I was coaching them maybe like somewhere around 10 clients for free. And I did that for a good 6+ months, I think. And then obviously started charging like peanuts, like 60 quid a month or something. And then from 2020 up till quite recently, to be honest, it's been less than a year since I've started doing the whole content thing, you know, because I was quite stubborn about it. I don't fucking want to do that shit. It's not me. And I still, to be fair, I still struggle with it a little bit. You know, I still think it's like, it's an additional stress, I find, like coming up with stuff to say, making sure it's still kind of me, not kind of leaving my lane sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I definitely think over the past year, like things have been I've been taking it a lot more seriously.
I will agree.
For sure. I've been taking it a lot more seriously and things have been certainly moving in that direction. And it's great now that I'm in a position now where a lot of like the up and coming junior bodybuilders and stuff are reaching out to me. Like I really like how that's kind of happened. Like I like how
It's happened so naturally as well.
yeah. And again, it's a case of you want a coach that has done what you're wanting to do. You know, like someone who wants to be a pro bodybuilder is not going to come to me because I'm not even remotely close to being a pro bodybuilder. You know, but I competed as a junior for 4 years. You know, so I think in terms of like junior bodybuilder and starting out, I think I'm more than capable of helping these guys do it. And it's great to see that I've got 2 guys this year, and next year's shaping up to be hopefully 4 or 5 at the moment, which is great. You know, I'm buzzing about it. You know? So no, that's good. Yeah.
What do you have a sort of, I don't know, ultimate vision or goal where you want to lead the coaching?
Yeah. So with the coaching, I don't want it to be like a huge kind of like coaching heaps of clients.
Yeah.
I've never been about that. You know, a lot of coaches do it very successfully. To me, that's not me, and that's why obviously I worked well with Greg for so long, because Greg is old school as it comes. You know, he's very black and white, and I got on really well with him. You know, and then obviously when I had to move on from Greg, it's to get a bit of a kick up the arse. I'm like looking at coaches, I'm like, right, who's the right coach for me? You know, who's the right person for me? And I'm like, yeah, there's all these big coaches that are coaching hundreds of clients, but again, to me, I don't want to be a number. I want to I don't want to be a friend, but I want a personal relationship where they actually know who I am and they understand what I'm kind of dealing with. So that's why I reached out to Dan, because Dan isn't someone who's wanting to coach umpteen clients. He keeps his numbers manageable, you know. So yeah, I think in terms of where I want my coaching business to go, I would love it to go along that route towards coaching, like some like how Dan coaches, you know, like has a reputation for being around the UK for being a very good coach, but not and coaching up and coming bodybuilders. Obviously, he's ahead of him. He's obviously one to coach. He's coaching guys from good juniors to super heavyweights. You know, I'm quite keen at the moment to kind of take newbies to juniors. You know, that's kind of where I want to be at the moment. You know,
and I think that's kind of just happened very, very naturally, as I was saying, where like you've not put out like any kind of content or post necessarily saying like, look, I'm looking to work with these kind of people. I think you've just posted your own shit and shared your kind of journey and your whole process, and people have flocked to that very, very naturally. When do you think the online coaching will be like the full-time gig?
That's a good question. So I love my day job. I love the engineering. I wouldn't have done 5 years at uni for it if I didn't love it, you know. So again, there's no immediate I just enjoy coaching because it's not like a stress for me to have clients, you know. It's like not a thing where I'm like, shit, if I lose 5 clients, I'm gonna be fucking homeless. I don't want that. You know, I'm very much like, I enjoy my engineering job, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of added stress and it does fill my day up quite significantly, you know. But the coaching for me is not something I ever want to be like worried about pushing it and panicking. Because I think there's a lot of coaches out there that are like, fuck, I'm a full-time coach, I'm losing clients, and they start getting desperate. You know, they start getting desperate, and that is not something I ever want to do. So don't get me wrong. Like if the coaching one day is very, very good, you know, it'd have to be better than it is now, I'd then consider doing it full-time. But for the time being, I'm in no rush. I enjoy the day job. Don't get me wrong. It takes away from my own bodybuilding, 100%, just because of time constraints for recovery and sleep and stuff. But I think the past few weeks with a new routine in place, I think I'm kind of finding my groove now. So I'm hoping the rest of this year, my own bodybuilding can take a little bit more of a priority again. And if that works out, then I'm in zero rush at all to be doing the coaching full time. That being said, if it was ever to explode, like to the point where I'm having to turn away clients that are good, like high level athlete clients, I'm turning away these juniors that are coming to me, and I'm like, fuck, you know, then yeah, that's the time I would do it. But I'm in no rush to do it, you know.
You said something refreshing actually, where it was just about yourself and it wasn't really about coaching, but you said you feel that you're nowhere near turning pro. And I think there's a lot of people, not just in Aberdeen, but that we know of, where they have like less experience bodybuilding, they have less sort of, I don't want to say titles, but wins underneath their belt, making claims that they'll turn pro in the next like 3 to 5 years, which like we know how we feel about that. where do you currently feel that you sort of is that the ambition for you? I guess at the start.
I don't know, man. It would be if I was. I think like if bodybuilding for me, if it continued to progress at a very good rate, it is something I would like to do. I'd love to be a pro, but I'm never going to come out and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a pro," because I think until you're at a certain level where you can say that, you have no business saying it. I think for me, I've competed in juniors. I've won a few shows. For me, the next step is, right, okay, I need to compete with the men. You know, I need to get on the stage and be competitive with the men. And personally, I don't think I'm there yet. I think if I wanted a bodybuilding stage in an open class, I'd have my arse handed to me, you know. So I have absolutely zero business saying, oh, I want to be a pro, or that's my 4-year, 5-year goal. And I think it's important that you take steps. You know, it's like, once you've accomplished this, once I win a novice class, okay, win an open class. Win an open class, right, win an overall. If you start winning overalls in your local bodybuilding shows, sure, your goal very well could be being a pro. But, like, then what? You're a shit pro. That's it. That's your bodybuilding now over, you know? That's not my goal. I'm not massively arsed about being a pro, to be honest with you. I would much rather be a very good amateur, you know, like competing and winning multiple shows. I think you have to have fucking mad genetics to be a good pro.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that. And if you've been training long enough, I've been training long enough now to know, like, I've not got supreme genetics, you know, or I'd be fucking way bigger than I am, you know. So being a pro is not something that I aspire to be, but if I get to a level where I could do it, absolutely that'll be a goal. But for the time being, I just want to be a good bodybuilder. It's training, man.
That's so fucking refreshing.
It's training for me. Like, it's not getting on stage and winning a pro card that makes me enjoy it. It's going into the gym and training fucking hard and just giving it everything, you know. I think the past 4 years training with Greg has really made, like, I think around Aberdeen, I think I've got a lot of people respect me for how I train. I think he's trains really hard and it's rubbed off on me, and I like him train hard because you have to be taught that, you know, you have to be taught how to train. And a lot of folk think they train hard, and it's not until they train with someone who does train hard.
It was you that opened my eyes to that, because obviously who I was getting coached by, like, I started going to the gym, I was going for 6 months, then I was getting coached by someone, and they were very much I guess it's like volume training, but it was also like very fluffy and
yeah.
half-arsed. And then I still remember it, we went and trained legs at DW, and I was fucked by the end. I was absolutely burst, and that was an eye-opener for me in terms of, oh, this is the standard I need to be training at.
Yeah. And honestly, man, I honestly think, like, even the likes of me, likes of Greg, I think there's people out there training way harder than us.
Oh, for sure,
you know?
of course.
And I think it's always good to get if you get an opportunity to train with someone who you know fucking trains hard, take it, because they will open your eyes and you'll be like, holy shit, like, I'm not training hard, you know? I like to think I'm training hard. I think Greg trains hard, I train hard, but I think there's always
someone who trains hard.
Yeah, always, you know?
For sure. No, that's really interesting. It was really refreshing to hear as well, just the whole, like, I'm not arsed about turning pro. I just like fucking training, and if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
With that being said, what about the actual competing side of things do you, like, love? Because you need to fucking love it ultimately, because it's not exactly like you can just dawdle and then end up on stage.
I'm competitive. I don't like losing. And I think the idea of competing is a real challenge. And I just enjoy fucking doing a prep, man. It's the pain and the suffering and what goes into it, and really locking in and driving towards a goal. I really enjoy that, you know. And it gives you a bit of a kick up the arse in the gym. It's like, fuck, I've got shows to compete in, you know. To be fair, like, the whole competing thing's not a huge thing for me. Like, I could take it or leave it. I'd rather take it, but I wouldn't lose an awful lot of sleep of leaving it. To me, the training is the priority. Going in the gym, training hard, and just building a physique that I like, you know.
Would you, if you had a choice between the two, would you rather be an elite level coach or an elite level bodybuilder?
Oh, that's a tough one. If I could choose the two, I'd probably choose elite level bodybuilder. Yeah. I think if I had the capability of being an elite level bodybuilder, I would take it in a heartbeat, 100%, because I fucking love doing it, you know. Yeah. I love coaching as well. But like I said, I'm not looking to be, like, I don't want to make, well, I'd love to make 6 figures, but it's not like I have to make 6 figures. It's not, I'm not chasing that. It's more out of enjoyment, more than anything else. So yeah, I think if I could choose between being an elite level bodybuilder or elite level coach, it would have to be a bodybuilder for sure. It would make training so much more fun.
Yeah,
You know?
just be strong as fuck. What about coaching drives you in that sense? What made you? Because like the two do kind of go in hand in hand in terms of your own bodybuilding and then becoming a coach, but there needs to still be a factor there where, like, if you're just seeing it as paying your bills, like I think that's a bit depressing. And
Yeah, not at all.
that reflects, I think, in your ability to coach and the results you're getting, etc. as well. So what do you specifically enjoy about coaching? What drives you to be a better coach and get into that?
Man, I think it's a generic answer, but just help people, man. I think like when people,
That is a generic answer.
but it's true. That's it. That's true though. Like generally, like when don't get me wrong, like we all have nightmare clients. Like they check in and it's like, oh, I've had a bad week, and then they just list problem after problem after problem. That I don't enjoy that at all. But it's part of the game, you know. When I say open a check-in and I'm like, fuck, like I'm actually excited. Like I really enjoy that, you know. Like there's been a few check-ins when I've opened them and I'm like, fucking hell, this is awesome, you know. Like you're looking amazing, you're ticking your boxes, and as a result, you're making huge amount of progress. That's what I really enjoy doing. So it's helping people, but it's also like seeing them enjoy the process and kind of, especially guys that want to be junior bodybuilders, kind of like following along what I've done already, sort of thing. If that makes sense. But yeah, that's probably what I think.
Do you think that, because it is a very generic answer, and I always believe, like, I'm the exact same in terms of how, like, I love to fucking problem solve, and I love it when someone comes to me with an issue and I'm able to fix that. But that stems down to another reason of initially how it makes me feel about myself.
Yeah.
So do you feel like there's anything in that sense where you're like, I don't know, not that you fucking sit back in your laptop but you're kind of monster and think, oh, I'm the fucking dog's bollocks. But there needs to be some kind of like, how does it make you feel about yourself being in a position where people have got this problem, they've got this goal, they've got this ambition.
And you're solving it.
And they're you're solving it, but like they're coming to you for help.
It's a good feeling. Yeah, I think when people are putting their trust in you, it's a very good feeling. I think, like especially this year, like there's guys now queuing up to give me the opportunity to put them on stage. Like that is, I really appreciate that, and obviously it gives me an opportunity to showcase what my knowledge that I've obviously taken on over the past however many years I've been doing it, and I hope it continues to grow in that way. You know, I think, having guys come to you where they're looking for your help, that's a nice
to
feeling.
get them on stage.
It is a nice feeling, 100%. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. I want to fire on with some quick questions because there's some really shit ones. One asked by the reprobate behind the fucking camera. There's two like vanity questions. One
who's
by
the better
Luke.
beard?
Yeah, and then one by Pete.
Andy can answer that one. Who's the best beard?
He's got. So yeah, the first one is whose beard is better? My opinion is yours is more pretty and aesthetically pleasing.
I'll take that.
But mine's longer.
I'm not disputing that at all.
I look like, what are you laughing at? I look like I've just come back from years of being a prisoner at war.
Yeah, I agree.
But yours is a lot more sharp. Pete then asked, who is bigger?
That's a good. You're probably. I don't know, man.
So I think muscularity-wise, you without a shadow of a doubt. Like there's.
But you're more. You're bigger.
My structure is bigger.
Yeah,
like I'm just taller and broader. So we can end that dick swinging contest there. Your missus is a really.
Down.
Your missus asked this, and I think it's a really good question.
Right.
Shout out Caitlin, if you could redesign society, what would you change?
Oh God.
You hate deep questions.
She's asked this question because I remember she was telling me about it earlier on, because I remember we had a big debate about this. What would I change about society? I don't know. Freeloaders, you know, I think like the way kind of like the healthcare system and everything works at the minute. Okay. I think there's a lot of people kind of abusing it. You know, and I think that's why she's asked that question, because we had a big argument about this, and I was just coming out with absolute shite. It would never work, and I'm not going to say what I said. But yeah, I think like people like that are kind of like claiming like getting healthcare when they don't need it, and like, you know, I think the healthcare should be fucking pointed towards people that actually need it, and you know what I mean, rather than people. Like you know what I'm getting at. I'm trying not to say anything that'll get me cancelled. Yeah. What about you? You answer this one then.
I think just this dire fucking need to impress everyone. Like, I just if I could change one thing, I would wish that everyone was just like unapologetically themselves. I feel like in terms of whatever you're doing on social media, however you're presenting yourself, wear what you want, talk how you like, just fucking be yourself and not have this sort of dire need to, impress others.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
kind of
get that.
My
I think as well on that, I think like the whole like the gym scene as well. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm kind of in the scene now as well with the whole content and stuff, but it does get quite a lot. Like, I think when you go in a gym and there's fucking tripods everywhere and folk have this no like etiquette when it comes to sort of thing, it is frustrating. I would definitely do away with that. It would probably hurt in terms of business.
If you could
coaching.
redesign one thing in society, it would be people not taking tripods.
No. The healthcare one and people abusing that definitely takes priority. But I mean, like from a selfish perspective, I think like I would love like when I got into bodybuilding, like at Bodyworks, like Instagram was a thing, but it wasn't like. People weren't, it was nowhere near what it is now. And don't get me wrong, obviously I'm abusing that as well now, obviously with you. And I try to do it as the most respectful way I can. I don't want to get in people's way. I think that some people are just very inconsiderate when it comes to that sort of thing. Like there's been a few times where I could just pick up their tripod and snap it over my knee because it just does my fucking head in sometimes. It really does, but. Again, it's part of the game now, isn't it? It
is part. It's just, it is what it is. And I don't think just because you've got a tripod out for the sake of doing content or whatever, whether that is for, your profession or you're just doing it for the sake of putting shit, like not one gives you more right than the other. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely not.
I think it's just a case of like the tripods that we would use is literally like a fold-away selfie stick that takes minimal space. But then there'll be some people that have like this full fucking thing out, thinking they're Michael Bay, like trying to film some cinematic experience.
It's not your studio. Like there's a time and a place, and it's not when people are trying to train.
Would you rather be naked for a full gym session? Or get dropped off from your house 5 miles away and have to walk home naked? To be honest, I reckon I've done that latter one back in my Sesher days.
Fuck it, 5 miles. It's a long walk. I don't think I could walk 5 miles with clothes on, to be fair. That's Caitlin again that asked that one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Naked for a full gym session. I think it depends. If the gym's busy, I don't think I'd be keen.
Give the people a show, man.
I don't think I'd be keen to do that, but I think you'd probably get arrested trying to walk home 5 miles naked. If I had shoes on, I'd probably take the walk home. To be honest with you, if I had shoes on,
you're naked.
I would just run with my hands over my bits. That'd be alright.
Nice, awesome. Right, moving on.
But by a gym session, you're holding dumbbells, you're holding machines. Like everything's out, mate. So
valid. It's cold in the gym as well, so...
It is cold in the gym, especially where else. You didn't answer that question.
What would I rather do? Naked for a full gym session. Fuck it, why not? Give the people a show.
Fucking hell.
You're welcome. What are your goals for your physique and where do you want to take it?
That's an interesting one for you because I actually don't even know what your goal is at the minute.
I don't really... Goals is a bit of a fucking odd word. It's not an odd word, but I don't really have a goal. I've got absolute zero want or intention to compete or anything like that.
We've gathered that now.
After
how much times have you tried? 4?
It's on one hand. Are we counting the COVID?
No, we won't count that one because you probably would have got on stage that year.
Still probably 4, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like the act of bodybuilding. I like everything that's required to get in stage condition. I like the whole process. I like
discipline.
Everything. It's provided me with so many different benefits other than just like the stage shots, etc. So I will continue to do that. I just want to get very, very large.
Yes, you still want to be a bodybuilder and be big.
I don't want to be fucking branded as a bodybuilder though.
Okay, be a big gym bro then.
That's so much worse. Just be a big cunt.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other. I think like people always say like you. I know you're one of these people that like a bodybuilder to me is just someone who lives the lifestyle. I don't think you have to want to compete to be a bodybuilder.
I'm the opposite.
I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference between competitive bodybuilding and just bodybuilding. I think to be a bodybuilder, all you really got to do is live the lifestyle. If you go to the gym, you train hard, you eat prescribed meals on a daily basis, I would consider you a bodybuilder, provided you're looking to build muscle.
Yeah.
I would then say you're a competitive bodybuilder, obviously you want to compete.
Yeah.
So I would still brand you a bodybuilder as much as you don't like it. I'd still brand you a
Fucking roll your
bodybuilder.
eyes at me, mate.
Listen, the bodybuilder, eh? We'll do a vote. We'll poll this one.
Do a poll. What are your goals then?
My
I
goals.
think we've already talked about.
Yeah,
it a
we've
little
kind
bit,
of went over it already. You know, like my intention is to keep training as hard as I can and get as big as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And then
Try a bit harder.
when the wheels fall off, the wheels fall off to stop. But yeah, no, that's the goal for me. You know, there's no like, oh, I want to be a pro or whatever. It's just keep getting fucking bigger.
Yeah.
That's for me what I want to do. You know.
Yeah. I had a goal originally, like more sort of classic physique in terms of like pretty and aesthetic. I just like the idea of being like a big fucking prick now.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
I like this one. What qualities or traits do you think make a good coach? That'll be our last one.
Yeah, right, okay. I think you've definitely got to. I don't think the whole relatable thing is a good. I don't think that's a good trait. I think you need to be a coach before you are a friend, in my opinion. I think it's good that you can be friendly with your clients, but I think ultimately it comes down to they're still paying you money for a service to get you to where you need to be. And I think if you're a coach who's like, oh yeah, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't consider that a good coach. I think you need to have a bit of a backbone. And I think if someone's not kind of pulling their weight, you need to fucking tell them.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the biggest thing, I would say. And you've got to enjoy doing it. You've got to enjoy help people as well. You know, I think if you're just doing it for money or whatever, then it's going to show in your service, you know. So having a bit of backbone and actually enjoying kind of what you're doing. I think it's probably more, but what about you?
Fuck knows what they are.
Fuck yeah. What about you?
I agree with the whole backbone sort of thing. I think to be a good coach, there needs to be an equal balance of like, I'm trying to think of a different word, but accountability and empathy. Not so much on one side of accountability where you're a drill sergeant saying you need to fucking do this, blah, 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 and then not take anything else into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also not being so much of the empathy side of things that you are a snowflake and bend over backwards to them.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a fine balance between like, right, you set this goal and this standards for yourself, fucking get it done, pull your finger out, but also being an understanding where, like, if something has happened, being aware that that is going to have a negative effect. Not so much where if it's like, oh, my stepdad's older brother's ex-wife's, like, stepson's goldfish died, and then, like, that's fucked up their diet for the week. But obviously there's a bit of a juggling act. So, yeah, I think there's a fine...
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, it very much depends on the client, right? I think if the client has big goals, like if someone comes to me like, oh, I want to compete as a bodybuilder, I treat them as such, you know? So if you're going to come to me and like make petty excuses for a client like that, I'm going to come down on you and I'm going to be like, listen, that's not good enough. This is your goal. Has what you've done this week reflected in that? If it's not, then fucking get your shit together. Yeah. Whereas if it's a lifestyle client, like, oh, like I've had a pretty bad week. This has happened with my ex fucking boyfriend, or such and such has done this and I've had a bad week or whatever. Then yeah, there's empathy there, 100%. But I think it depends on the client, you know. And you've got to, as a coach, you've got to know when to say, when to give and when to take, you know. So
agreed.
But yeah, it really depends on the client, I would say.
Sounds awesome. And I think we'll wrap up there. Is there anything you want to plug or say? I don't know.
No, I'm not much of a plugger.
I don't need a plugger. Interesting. No. Okay.
That didn't sound right, did it?
No, it didn't.
No, I don't think there's nothing I want to plug.
Okay, well, I'll do it for you. Any young lads that have aspiring competitive goals and want a coach who's going to get them in phenomenal shape but also doesn't have a personality, Cammy Duncan. It's like me.
He loves saying that.
Gotta get in there. Gotta get in there.
Yeah, he's got to.
Cammy's like, you've established yourself very, very much within a short space of time that you're a fucking good competitive bodybuilding coach. Like if we look at the likes of not even just Connor and Logan that are a way to step on stage, but everyone else as well, you're getting phenomenal results with these young lads. So I think it's credit where credit's due, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Boring bastard, but a good coach. So yeah, we'll wrap
it's always
up
got
there.
a little bit of negativity.
I'm an annoyingly positive person. I am. Right, we'll wrap up there, folks. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.